On page 13 of our Unit 1 notes, we're looking at solving equations containing fractions, specifically using a technique called clearing the fractions. What I mean by that is rather than solving, for example, this equation by subtracting 1/9 from both sides and then dividing both sides by 2/9, we're instead going to look at this equation containing fractions and just try to make all of the terms have only whole numbers and no fractions. To do this, we make sure each term is written with a common denominator, and that is already the case for this particular equation. And then we're going to multiply both sides of the equation by that common denominator. In this case, multiplying the left-hand side by 9 and the right-hand side by 9. Really common issue is that people like to do this. I would really like you not to do that. It's weird to multiply the equal sign by 9. What we're doing is we have this expression equal to this expression, and multiplying 2/9 x plus 1/9 by 9 is still equal to 5/9 times 9. So we're just maintaining that equality. Multiplying both sides of the equation by 9 basically lets us cross out the denominator so that we have 2x plus 1 equals 5. And then from there, you can solve that two-step equation. Okay, normally, however, the fractions are not already given to you with a common denominator. And in that case, you need to rewrite each term to share the common denominator. So 20, 10, 4, and 5, the common denominator is going to be 20. So 3x over 20. Multiply this one, top and the bottom, by 2 over 2. So I have plus 2 over 20. Multiply this by 5 over 5. I can multiply it by 5 over 5, which is just 1, which is 5x over 20. And then multiply this by 4 over 4, which is 4/20. Now I saw a lot of you not doing this step, just actually literally crossing out the denominator in your head. You can't do that. I need you to multiply both sides of the equation by 20. That gives you 3x plus 2 equals 5x minus 4. Very simple equation, which you now can solve. A few of you asked if it would be okay to not actually rewrite each term with a common denominator, and because you're very good at fractions, to do this in your head. So I used to say on the notes optional, and to you it was okay to just go to this step. So 20 times 3x divided by 20 gives me 3x. 20 times 1/10 gives me 20 over 10, which is 2. X over 4 times 20, I'm going to have a 20 over 4, which is 5x. Just a second. Sorry about this. And then 20 times 1/5 is just 4. That gets me to the same place that I got to when I rewrote everything with the common denominator. It's okay. I've just seen year after year that students who are doing it this way are making mistakes. So actually writing it with the common denominator is super helpful to ensuring that you get the right answer. But if you are confident and really good at fractions, I will not take off points for you going straight to here without rewriting it. I do still need to see the times 20 on each side. Okay, this problem right here is the one that you're really going to need to pay attention to when you have a whole number. So in general, students get really good at rewriting this with, in this case, a common denominator of 6. So times 2 times 2, I'm going to have 8x over 6 times 3 minus 9 over 6. Skip that for a second. Times 3, 21 over 6. And then students just don't know what to do with that whole number. They just try to like magically give it a common denominator of 6 or just ignore it. So 1 written with a common denominator of 6 is not 1/6. 1/6 does not equal 1. 1 with a common denominator of 6 is 6 over 6. So I still can think of this as 1 over 1, multiply the top and the bottom by 6. Multiplying the left-hand side and the right-hand side by that common denominator, I will end up with a two-step equation, and I will be able to solve it. This is a problem where I think it is okay and a lot of students are successful rewriting each fraction term with that common denominator, keeping the whole number as a whole number, and then just remembering when you multiply by 6, you're not just crossing out that term somehow. You are crossing out denominator, denominator, and then you have to remember to multiply 6 times 1. So that is an option. If you have a hard time writing a whole number as a fraction with a common denominator, you can keep it as that whole number and then just remember to multiply it by that common denominator. So in this case, 1 times 6, and you see that you get the same next step.